guys, how's everybody doing today? So I got a new project I'm going to be starting on. This is I think it's a late 70s 17-foot manatee center console boat. I'm going to do a little bit of restoration on it, get it seaworthy here. It doesn't need a whole lot, but there are a few things I want to address on it. The first thing that we're going to be doing today is we're going to be replacing the throttle cables. The one for the gear selector, the cable actually broke, and then the throttle is very stiff, so it's making it very difficult to use at this point. So today's project is we're going to go ahead and remove those old cables and install the new ones and see if we can get that working properly. Okay, so here's what we're up against. Here's the two cables. I took the throttle control out of the console so I could disconnect these, and they basically run through the floor down the back. They come out over here, and then they come up through the back of the hull here and then hook up to the engine. This is a Evinrude 88 SPL engine. I think it's maybe early mid-80s, 84ish, something like that. But one of the challenges is basically going to be getting the old cables out of the floor, and you can see that somebody kind of gooped this thing all up, so I got to clean this up and fix that. But like I say, the first step is going to be, let's get these cables out of here. So let's see how we're going to do that. Okay, so when this boat first came here, it had a big spaghetti mess of wires underneath here on the console, so I pretty much straightened that stuff out. I am going to have to take it apart again though, so I can run these cables. So let's get some of this stuff apart, see what we're dealing with here. Okay, so whoever repaired this previously, there's a hole in the floor, and they basically just filled it with a bunch of silicone. I don't know how watertight that was, so we're going to do this right. I'm going to put a piece of pipe in there to run the wires through, and then we're going to fiberglass around it so that it's done properly. So we got some extra wires here too. I'm not even sure what these go to. They're not hooked up to anything, so we'll try to straighten this all out. But let's work on getting them cables out. So the way I'm going to attempt to do this is I got a couple of coat hangers, and I basically wrapped one end through the eyelet on the cable, and then I connected two hangers together, wrapped them around. I'm going to put some duct tape on here to kind of hold it together and make it a little easier to slide through. And then hopefully we can just pull it right through, and then I can hook up the other cable and pull it right back. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so theoretically my plan would have worked as far as pulling it through with the coat hanger. The only problem is when they laid down this floor, they decided to zip tie all the cables together, and I couldn't separate them. So because there was a hole in the front there, I decided, let me cut a channel in the floor here so I can access the cables and everything, but let me check for water damage. And sure enough, when I cut a slit out, there was water in there, and in the back also. So I cut this open. I'll probably cut the back open a little bit more, and I do have some marine grade plywood that I picked up, so I'm going to go ahead and replace whatever sections I need to, and then we'll glass over it and paint it. But I want it to be done right. I don't want to have, you know, rotted floors and having issues. So while I'm in here, while I'm doing all of this, I might as well just cut it out, replace it, do it right. So at this point I should be able to get the cables out and get the new one slipped in there, so let's get that done. Okay, so it's probably a good thing that I opened this up, because looking at the harness, I have a purple wire here that somebody spliced into, and they didn't protect it, so water got on it, it corroded and came apart. So I'm going to go ahead and repair that wire while I'm in here. That way that'll be working, whatever that was for, because otherwise it would have been a break under the floor that never would have worked. So we'll get that repaired. So rather than doing a butt connector like they had, like this one, I'm actually going to take that one apart and redo it all. So I opted to solder the wires together and then put some heat shrink on them. I think it's going to be a much better connection. So let me get this other one taken care of too. Alright, so I'm not quite sure why, but whoever patched this up before, they ran a bunch of wires through the floor and the main harness from the ignition also. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the steering cable in the floor, and then the harness for the engine I'm going to route with the other wires under here. That way if anything ever happens to the harness, I'll have easy access to it. The only thing that'll be in the floor is the steering, which I don't anticipate any problems because it works really nicely. So let's get that rewired. Okay, so at this point I have the cables hooked up. They're hooked up to the throttle and they're hooked up to the engine. And let's see if they actually work. Okay, so they appear to be working. So I got a little bit more wiring to do here, and then we'll start her up and make sure she works for sure. Alright, so we got it all hooked up. I'm going to try the levers, make sure everything's working properly. So let's start her up. Alright, everything's working the way it should. It's going into forward, going into reverse, throttle's working, so that's all set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-glass the floor. I'm probably going to cut away a little bit more underneath there to see what's soft and fix that. And I'm going to reroute the wires, tuck that all in nice and neat. Okay, so that portion's done. The other thing I did today was I hooked up the power trim. This didn't have a power tilt on it, it had a manual, and now I have the power tilt. So the boat came with a separate power tilt unit, it wasn't on the boat, so I swapped it over and just finished rewiring it, so that's working properly now, everything's all good. So that's about it for today. We'll catch you on the next one.